Disciplinary action against a government employee cannot rely on ad hoc management decisions. It requires exact mechanical precision. The Central Civil Services Classification, Control, and Appeal Rules of 1965 provide this strict architecture. These rules serve a dual mandate. They protect institutional integrity from misconduct while guaranteeing the accused their constitutional right to natural justice. We are examining three specific phases of this framework: the initial suspension under Rule 10, the formal inquiry under Rules 14 and 16, and the statutory right to appeal under Rule 23. These phases operate as a continuous, interlocking timeline. The legality of each step depends entirely on the execution of the one before it. A deviation at any node, such as a missed deadline or a biased officer, can invalidate the final disciplinary order. For disciplinary authorities, following this exact procedural anatomy is the only way to ensure an administrative action survives legal scrutiny. An order of suspension under Rule 10 is not a punishment. It is strictly a provisional administrative safeguard used while proceedings are pending. Upon suspension, the regular salary stops. Instead, they receive a subsistence allowance governed by Fundamental Rule 53, calculated at 50% of their basic pay. On top of this baseline, the administration legally preserves three core allowances: dearness allowance, city compensatory allowance, and house rent allowance. But operational perks are cut. The employee cannot claim reimbursement for maintaining a personal vehicle for official duty, PLI premiums, or washing allowances. If the employee occupies self-leased accommodation, the rent recovery continues at the exact same rate they paid the day before their suspension. This financial framework is engineered to maintain the employee's basic livelihood, ensuring they can defend themselves without receiving full compensation during an active investigation. A suspension cannot drag on indefinitely. The administration must conduct a formal review within 90 days to determine if extending the order is necessary. If the review reveals the investigation was delayed by the administration, the subsistence allowance increases to 75%. Conversely, if the delay is directly attributable to the suspended employee evading the process, the allowance is reduced to 25%. To receive any of these funds, the employee must submit a formal certificate proving they have not engaged in private business or trade while suspended. These dynamic financial levers ensure that whichever party is responsible for stalling the process carries the financial consequence of that delay. The formal process begins at Gate 1, the preliminary investigation. Here, the department verifies the facts to determine if a prima facie case exists. Preliminary fact-finding requires no prior authorization, but initiating formal disciplinary proceedings demands specific approval from the designated disciplinary authority. Once approved, the administration issues the formal charge sheet to the accused. This document organizes the case into three distinct categories. Charges cannot rely on vague complaints. They must be clear, precise articles. Each article must be backed by a detailed statement of imputations. The administration must also attach an exhaustive list of documents and witnesses. The employee is then granted a specified reasonable timeframe to submit a written statement of defense. If a charge sheet lacks specific details or evidence from the start, the department creates a procedural defect that can invalidate the entire action during later reviews.
If the employee denies the charges, we reach Gate 3, the formal inquiry. This stage requires a rigid separation of roles. The inquiry officer cannot be the person who conducted the preliminary investigation, and they must hold a rank equal to or higher than the accused. To maintain parity against the department's presenting officer, the accused official has the right to secure another government servant to assist in presenting their defense. The process strictly demands original documents for evidence, and the accused retains the right to inspect these records under official supervision. If an employee absconds or refuses to cooperate, the proceedings do not halt. The inquiry officer may proceed ex parte. However, even ex parte, the officer must rigorously follow the entire evidentiary procedure, marking documents and examining witnesses exactly as if the accused were present. The stage concludes with both the presenting officer and the accused submitting their final written briefs summarizing their respective arguments. Gate 3 is where the principles of natural justice are most strictly tested. Demonstrating bias or denying access to evidence here provides the legal grounds to set the entire order aside. Gate 4 begins when the disciplinary authority examines the completed inquiry report.
the authority must weigh only formally recorded evidence. Extraneous factors, like the employee's past record, must be completely ignored if not included in the inquiry. If a penalty is warranted, the resulting document must take the form of a speaking order. This requires a specific architecture, detailing the history of the case, the charges, the examined evidence, and the final findings. The order must provide specific, logical justification for the outcome of each individual charge. This speaking order serves as the definitive legal judgment.
The moment it is issued, it triggers the employee's statutory right to challenge the administration's decision. Once a penalty is finalized, Rule 23 of the CCS rules provides the formal legal mechanism for an administrative appeal. Unlike general grievances governed by Rule 22, an appeal under Rule 23 is highly specific. It can only be filed against a Rule 10 order of suspension or a Rule 11 penalty order, not against routine administrative actions like transfers. Rule 26 prescribes a strict limitation period. The official has exactly 45 days to file a formal appeal. This clock begins upon receipt of the order, or, in the case of suspension, upon the formal communication of the explicit reasons for that suspension. Filing an appeal does not automatically pause the penalty. The employee must submit a specific request for a stay of execution to the appellate authority. Rule 23 offers powerful protection, but only if the appellant adheres exactly to its rigid formats and deadlines. From suspension through the inquiry gates to the final appeal, we see the complete pipeline. Administrations lose cases by breaking this chain at stress points, like missing the 90-day review or using a biased inquiry officer. Tribunals will dismiss broken cases, regardless of misconduct. Conversely, executing each step in accordance with the rules creates a legally defensible outcome that can withstand external scrutiny. The CCSA rules function as a rigorous logical framework where the validity of the final institutional output depends on precise satisfaction of every procedural condition.